is this. I fully expect and would require that leaders in that sector cooperate and work with us who are concerned about national security, concerned about upholding and protecting our democracy, to do everything in their power to ensure that there is not a manipulation that is allowed or overlooked that is done with the intention of upending the security of our democracy and our nation.
I would require? Joining me now, friend of this show, Jeffrey Tucker, who's always so good on this stuff, founder and president of Brownstone Institute. All right, Jeffrey, you wrote a book for the Epic Times, or you wrote a piece for the Epic Times called Our Worst Fears About Twitter Were True. Walk us through it.
The FBI completely took over the operations of Twitter for years, unfortunately. And it's really grim. And they were blocking accounts, and they were discriminating based on politics. You know, what Kamala Harris there was saying, you know, are, what she called manipulating, that's called free speech in the United States. And it simply wasn't allowed on Twitter. It began in 2016, and it continued especially after the spring of 2020, when scientists and doctors and other people warning about lockdowns were banned and blocked and throttled. And I know this from personal experience. My own, since Musk has taken over, my own impressions are up 60 and 70% over what they were before. And I'm not alone. There were tens of thousands of people that were doing this. And so, you know, what the Twitter files have revealed is that this was entirely a government, I guess you would call it like a deep state or administrative bureaucracy, had taken over the operations of Twitter and even paid Twitter employees. I think we've got between $3 and $4 million that were committed to paying Twitter employees from the FBI, and they were in the top level ranks of management. We know this now. I suspected it all along, but it's a fact now, and I consider this an incredible scandal. And I should be shocked, but I'm not, that the mainstream news media is not covering this at all. But Twitter is a kind of people use it as a window to the public mind. It turns out it was basically operating as a government propaganda apparatus for many years until Musk took over.
Jeffrey, I've done the best I can to explain to people why it is so dangerous to have a state police agency that has lost its way this badly. But walk us through it in your own words. This organization cannot continue to exist in any form. The Hunter Biden story alone, everything else aside, the pro-lifers, the school board moms, all that stuff, everything else aside, taking possession of Hunter Biden's laptop a year ahead of time, knowing it was real, and then making sure it gets censored to help Joe Biden should be the end of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. No question.
Well, and it turns out to have seriously manipulated democratic outcomes in the United States because, you know, we think we're going to these free platforms. And don't forget, social media began in this country with the sense that it was going to allow access, democratic access to new ideas and allow new kinds of conversations and new forms of news we hadn't previously gotten from the mainstream press. That was the promise. But after 2016 and then following, and especially 2020, these companies, you know, and we only know about Twitter because Elon took it over and dumped all the files, and we're going to see more in the coming months. But we know that this also happened to Google, it happened to Facebook, and all these other platforms, which together, you know, amount to 99% of the social media use. I'm glad people can post on other venues and things, but controlling the public mind is the goal here. And in a free society with the First Amendment and democracy, you're not supposed to have federal agencies determine election outcomes and, you know, what kind of science you can believe and what voices can be heard and what voices can't be heard. I mean, I'm mortified by this personally. I mean, I thought I was going crazy, actually, for a couple of years there, you know, where I wasn't able to find other people who held my views, or I was mystified by why everything seems so strange out there. And now we know why. It was a deliberate deliberately constructed outcome by federal agents deeply embedded in all these companies, and they're still embedded at LinkedIn, at Facebook, at Google, and so on. I mean, we can assume that this is true. We just happen to have this little glimmer of truth from Twitter, thanks to the exigency of Elon's takeover. It cost him $44 billion. Now we benefit from knowing the truth about things, which is that they've been using the platform to manipulate public opinion, to affect democratic outcomes, and profoundly distort our sense of reality. That's why we've all thought for so long we're all going crazy. I mean, it turns out we weren't going crazy. They just gave us a distorted view of reality.
Well, speaking of government employees going to work for these companies, just came out today that Facebook's Meta is filled full of ex-CIA guys, so that's great. Okay, Jeffrey, it seems so, in my moments where I may be feeling a little bit down when I look at the entire administrative state weaponized against the right, working hand in hand with all the social media world weaponized against the right. I'm not even going into education and entertainment. Let's just focus on those two. That alone seems so insurmountable. Can we overcome that?
I appreciate the comment you just made, because that's what I'm experiencing, Jesse, over the last couple of weeks, but it's been growing for months and even years, a growing sort of demoralization from regular people, that there's an elite out there that's manipulating outcomes and manipulating public opinion. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, I resist that sort of despair, mainly because I think that that's what they want us to feel. They want us to feel as if we're completely powerless and that the system is entirely owned by them and we can't have access to it. And I just don't think we need to acquiesce to this attitude. I'm doing my best to use every venue I possibly can to get the word out. And I think that's the way we all have to behave, and can't let ourselves be defeated by the sense of things that are more powerful than us. In the end, I do think ideas are enormously powerful, and they do affect the public mind, and that the public mind is ultimately going to demand change from the very top. It's just going to be a long and difficult process that only the brave and courageous can really win. So, my view is, don't give in and don't give up. I don't think we can afford to do that right now.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.